the DeCool Guardian of the Galaxy Rocket Raccoon, and oh look, it has one view already. Look at that.
That'll be a very contentious one because I don't know how the Legos community, collector community feels about
the
DeCool stuff
right.
yet. I know that for the vast majority of people, the third-party Transformers community is kind of like, it's bled in. It's some of that stuff is just too good. You can't avoid it. But there is that huge contingency of like,
do this, put that over there and shoot him from that way because it's blocking us.
You know, they're like, these are unofficial period end of sentence, and they refuse to acknowledge them, and that's silly because they have no loyalty to us. So
but you had said before that they do toys that don't compete with other Lego toys.
Yeah. You know, and the bottom line is how this works is you are loyal to the product, not to the toy, to the company. Otherwise, the companies do things like Hasbro's done in the past 5 or 6 years, where they blamed the petroleum crisis, and then they started slowly lowering.
What, for plastic?
Yeah, started lowering the quality of their figures, and but we know it's not that way because they fired their creative team that was doing all the good stuff, and they, you know, I mean, that's how it works. But whenever you guys are ready to shoot this thing,
we've been rolling this whole time. Yes. That's how we roll. That's actually how we roll. Well, we really do. So Spider's here tonight with another toy review, and what do you have for us tonight?
All right. Well, I have kind of an oddity here. It's not a third party. It's not a crappy bootleg. It's not an official toy per se. You know, I'm not going to talk about the Transformers movies because I'm in a good mood and I'd like to stay that way. I'm not going to read. I am only going to touch very briefly upon the toy lines and the decisions that they have made. This is ostensibly Transformers Dark of the Moon Megatron. Now, the original, this is a bootleg. This is a knockoff, and it's very interesting for a knockoff because it's not only is it like 4 times the size of the original item. I mean it. That original Megatron that Hasbro produced was only about this big. It has additional features and things that the other one does not have. And again, even despite the fact that it is a knockoff, it is a bootleg, it is something you would get at a flea market. It is superior in quality. It is just as good in quality and sculpt. Nothing is lost on it. I wanted to start it out in vehicle mode to show off a couple of things, but also because I know Art just saw Mad Max, and he is a war rig. He is.
Yes.
And you know what? You know what's really interesting? When I saw that earlier, no idea it was a Transformer.
No.
It just looks like a regular toy truck. I thought maybe from some other movie.
Sure.
Right. And tell us how much this item would be if you were to purchase it.
Well, shipping is going to nail you, but the item itself is about. I think it was at first it was about $30-40 some odd dollars,
That's
and
not
then went
terrible
and
at
then
all.
went when demand went up and scarcity started to increase. I think he's to the tune of $60 or $70.
All right, still reasonable.
So still well below.
Yeah.
And you anybody who sells bootleg toys online, they're usually individuals, and if you email them and ask them to remove it from whatever packaging it's in, they will do so and ship it for you for a cheaper price.
Okay.
Now, 2 things are happening here. One is the demand on this coast that to receive large-scale figures of villain characters from films, especially when the villains are large characters. We don't get that, especially when it comes to Transformers. We will get like they come in different size classes, from Legends class, which are little pocket toys, $3 or $4, to Scout toys, which are complicated but not much larger, to Deluxe, which is their standard toy. If you're going to run up to the shelf and pick a toy off the shelf, and it's going to be in the $10 to $20 range, it's going to be Deluxe. Then there's Voyager class, Ultra class, which no longer exists, which was for like the bruiser characters, and then there was Leader class. Now, you know, now the movies, you will get Leader class Optimus Prime all day. The Leader class toy for Revenge of the Fallen stands out because it's probably the most accurate thing you've ever seen. You see the movies, and they basically explode into shrapnel between their modes, and the parts don't make any sense how they reconfigure. This toy did that. Like a lot of the parts on Optimus were on Waldos, so when you exploded him from truck mode, you would move the Waldos around, and he would configure. And it takes an hour to transform him. But we got very few. But the Megatron toy from that line was perfunctory and dumb, and it was literally like, it's Megatron, and then you just smush him down, and now it's some kind of tank. And then and then when Dark of the Moon rolled around, we never got a large scale Megatron. They rebuilt that Optimus to match some of the design changes, but they kept him, and we were happy with that because it's the best Optimus we're ever going to get. We got like 3 different leader class Bumblebees. Inexplicably, Bumblebee is a small character, but we understand that children. But we didn't get a large Shockwave. We didn't get a large Megatron. I think we got Sentinel Prime, but only because he started out as a good guy character. It's kind of lame. We all want large Megatron. Megatron is bigger than Optimus Prime in the movie. He is more complicated,
right? And
we never get that. So there is a domestic demand for a large Megatron that we never received. Overseas, where this bootlegging occurred, kids like larger toys. You are much more likely to buy your child one gigantic toy that they carry around and beat the mortal crap out of over the course of several months than you are to buy them a shitload of little, smaller scale figures that they're going to lose parts on and kind of chew through like junk food.
I agree.
So Megatron is 4 times the size, I think, of the original figure. The original figure was only, I think, in truck mode was only about this big. He has some really amazing features in truck mode. He has this kind of cowcatcher murder grill, and it's
murder grill.
Yeah, and it's completely removable. It splits in half due to his transformation. But it's removable. He's got some interesting light piping going on with his windshield. You'll notice one is thicker here, and that was a point of debate when the original toy came out. And it's because it's a bulletproof shield on a Mack truck that's designed for military use. He has this very cool, and you don't get a lot of canvas, tarp, or cloth features on a Transformer.
That's the first thing I noticed.
And it's removable. And one of the coolest features, because he's not guilty of something a lot of Transformer toys do, which is called parts forming, where this part is supposed to go over here later, and the engineers can't figure it out, or there's monetary costs. So this part just comes
pop it off, and then
or
pop it back
it's
on.
Superfluous, and it comes up, and it goes in a shoebox.
Yeah.
He is not a parts former, and yet he has an axle swivel.
I can see, yeah.
For that, and I think that's probably one of the coolest darn things. And this was a feature that existed on the original toy.
I never would have expected that. That's really cool.
We all got a huge kick out of it. Now he does do some parts forming because the original toy did. I'll go ahead and jump to the transformation in a minute. One thing I want to point out, a lot of modern Transformers, and by modern Transformers I mean the ones from 2015, because they are scaling back and scaling back and scaling back, and it is very frustrating. This one rolls.
Yeah,
so many of
the wheels are all actually working.
So many of them don't do, they will have rolling wheels, but by the time you see this, Transformers toys will not have steel pins in the wheels to help with that. They will all have clip-in wheels that are perfect if you have a child that you hate and wish would choke to death. That's a thing that will happen now. So you're in luck. Let me go ahead with the transformation.
Wait.
Here.
Now put it all back together, and what we're going to do for the transformation. This will be our first time-lapse episode. I think what's going to happen is for the time-lapse, 1 minute will actually equal 1 second. So if this takes you 15 minutes, we'll see this in 15 seconds.
And I know you didn't want your day ruined, or you were in a good mood or whatever, but I don't think I ever understood why Megatron ever transformed in anything except that gun.
Okay, well, we all know why he. One last thing. One of the only differences in design that you're going to see from this and the official version, besides the giganto size, is the original version had a Mack Truck Bulldog hood ornament. This one just has a shape. It kind of looks like a truck hitch. It's fine. On the original toy, the first thing anybody did was they swiveled a part around and snapped that Bulldog right the hell off. So it was fine. Now, the reason we know why Megatron isn't a gun anymore, because
guns are bad.
Because police love to shoot children who are obviously carrying toys.
Okay.
If it's still, I don't understand the sense of it, because if they're shooting children with super soakers and Nerf guns, the problem isn't that the kid is holding something that's dangerous looking.
Social commentary.
Right.
Good.
Yeah. So they kind of stumble over what is Megatron going to be. A lot of times they make him a tank. But there's like 30 different tank characters that makes them very indistinct, and you want your leader. I always love if there's going to be any sort of allegory in a children's show, I love that the most dangerous, hateful being in the universe of a race
transforms into a gas truck.
The original version I'm talking about now.
Okay.
I love the idea that, and they are all, by their nature, they turn into vehicles or machinery of some kind. He transforms into the one device that is meant only to kill. only for bad. You can't haul things. You can't race things. There's no beauty to it. There's no anything. He turns into. He is a murderous individual that turns into something that is meant for killing. And I always loved that.
I always thought it was interesting that the leader of the Decepticons, the all-powerful jackass of the Decepticons, turns into a thing that somebody else has to operate.
There's a lot of more symmetry to that in the IDW comics, the current ongoing series, where Megatron got his start as a freedom fighter. The Decepticons were the working class, blue collar, and military beings on the planet, and the Autobots were the civil and ruling classes. So
interesting.
Megatron, as he began, sending out manifestos, and the manifestos would galvanize the population. And he talked about class war and inequality, and this idea of weird Transformer racism, where if you transformed into a utilitarian vehicle, you were lower class because you were meant to work. And so him turning into a weapon that had to be placed in the hands of the individuals to empower them to rise up against their ruling class. It's literally like it's very American, actually. The idea of First Amendment, that our country was meant to, our forefathers actually meant us to keep the ruling class in check by undergoing violent revolution. It was actually kind of very cool.
It's weird that a cartoon that was designed to sell children toys has turned into something that actually makes social commentary.
Right.
And you can really find a lot of stuff in that.
That's what happens when you introduce something to somebody at 5 years old and allow them to carry it in their hearts and minds till they're in their 30s.
Always in the back of their head, yep.
Sure.
And that's what's kind of, again, I talked about this before. This is what happens when and we don't see it very often, but when a fiction or a license or a property that was started as a product to get, to pay your bills, morphs into a modern modern folklore and modern tradition. And what has happened here, and you see it here, this is big. I mean, literally and figuratively, this is bigger than Hasbro now. This is bigger than the original toys. This goes far beyond that, beyond just, I mean, that other part of it still exists, and selling to kids still exists. But layered on top of that is our nostalgia and our memories and our visceral connections to these characters and these properties, and the new fiction and the new stories that are being told, especially through the IDW comics, which we do sell in the store.
You sell the IDWs here, correct?
I cannot recommend them heavily enough. Even if you have no interest in Transformers whatsoever, they are phenomenal reads. So again, Megatron he can't. They struggle with what he is, and then later interpretations of the character. Why would an individual like this want to hide ever? So he would retain his Cybertronian modes, as you saw in the first two films. He stayed an alien vehicle. By the third movie, he is actually damaged. He is injured. His forces are decimated. He is hiding out. So he takes on, and he's hiding out in Africa in a very arid climate. So he takes on a desert military vehicle. But it was unintentional at the time, no relation at the time, but very obviously now this is a war rig from Mad Max. When you look at it, that is what this is.
Right.
It's
Charlize Theron character sold separately.
Yeah, sculpted chains, and things like that, and rags and patchwork machinery, and you can see it's a little more obvious how kind of geometric it is on the larger figure, but there's these texture that on the smaller version read as rust, and if you were in corrosion, if you were to paint it up a little more, you'd probably get that.
Which I'm sure you'd like to do.
Right. Well, I mean, I do have a lot of fun with customization on occasion. Yes. Let me go ahead and get cracking.
Go ahead with the transformation. We're just going to sit back here and do a time lapse.
Sure thing.
So actually, it doesn't matter what we say.
No,
it'll all just
so
be
all that gets removed.
We can either talk about nothing or something or whatever, and
literally
maybe use the audio, this camera for something or whatever.
Well, what I'll do is I'll edit this as normal. I'll time lapse all the cameras.
Okay.
In that little comic book window that we do, so you'll see the whole thing time lapse.
That's cool.
Once again, I gotta say, it's busy here on a Friday night, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank God.
I'm glad to see a lot of these tables being taken up and being used for what they're supposed to be used for.
I don't know how much of it is Magic anymore. I mean, is it still Magic on Fridays? Magic's Gathering?
Today is Star Wars, a very special Star Wars episode of Gods and Monsters.
Spider's thrilled as he says that.
It was only about 6 minutes.
It took Spider 5 minutes and 30 seconds to put that together. So we just saw a very quick time lapse.
Good job.
Yeah.
Let us know how it was to get it together for you.
Well, this is the first time he's come off my shelf in a little bit, so it took me a little while to remember certain things. As you saw, there was a scary moment there where you have to straighten out his leg by folding his one part out, and like I had it folded in, and it was getting ready to,
Snap.
Yeah, make terrible noises at me. He is a knockoff. This is a bootleg toy, but all the quality is there. If you saw me struggling a little bit, it's because the tolerances and engineering on this figure were designed for something that barely comes up to his knee in robot mode, and now it takes twice the amount of force to do anything. And we'll actually see where that it's not really too much of a problem, except for on one piece, which I will show you.
I'll tell you something I immediately see about this toy that I don't recall from Transformer toys from the 80s anyway, is that doesn't look anything like the truck that it was.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Well,
it's almost as if you turn all the pieces inside out, and that's where the robot is. Because in the past, it was like the head popped out of the top, and now all of a sudden, now I can see very clearly that was a train engine, and now it's just a head sticking out of the top of a train engine.
Yeah. Two totally separate toys is what it looks like.
The reason that happens a big time with the movie toys is, or with the more complex movie toys, not the oversimplified ones we're getting now, or we got on the last film, was the robot and the vehicle had no relationship to each other whatsoever, and you would see especially with Megatron, he basically was a walking chandelier, is what the animators called him in the first film, and he was a little bit more put together in the second film, and the third film. It is what it is. But what's interesting is nowadays with the modern Transformers, if they don't transform the same way that they used to, like if Jazz's chest doesn't get made from the front end of his car, say, and this is just for example, he will have a fake car front hidden in him somewhere. So if that car front, if the hood of the car ended up on the back of his legs, he would have a little molded plastic one for a chest in there. So you'll see that. You'll see fake kibble, fake wheels, extra wheels, things like that. I have a cliff jumper toy, and his wheels are supposed to go in the backs of his thighs, and there's wheels in there, but they don't do anything in his car mode.
Really though, other than the wheels, this does not look like a truck in any way.
He also doesn't look much like Megatron in the movie, which helps me buy him. Actually, it makes I like this. I like his lanky kind of look. With him this large, you actually get to see some of the detail that you couldn't make out on the smaller toy. The battle damage, if you remember the third film, most of his head was eaten away with a gunshot wound. You can see that a lot better here on this version. Now there's no loose joints on him. He is extraordinarily sturdy. You saw I was putting him through some punishment
you were wrestling
again,
with that thing,
and he was taking it. And there's no stress marks in there. There's no issues. Like I'm not scared of that. He is pretty phenomenal. He is extraordinarily large. He is bordering on 3.75 inch figure scale. That is to say, like he almost looks like he'd be in scale with your G.I. Joes. In relation to the vehicle mode and everything else.
In comparison to the Boba Fett from last week's episode, he's about the same height, isn't he?
Oh, Boba Fett was about to here.
Really?
Oh yeah, this is pretty big. This is larger than leader class by a wide margin. It's not quite Titan class. Like it's not about the size that you'd see of a Metroplex, but he is as big as the old Unicron toy and Primus that came out for Armada. So he's pretty intense. And
with due respect, Unicron was a planet.
Well, yeah, sure. But for Megatron here to be as tall as that planet Transformer is pretty intense. Now, he's still got a lot of the cool features from the original toy. His tarp still folds out and becomes his cloak, and actually pegs in just fine. He loses none of the features. The only thing I think that the original toy had, I got to look at it to get it, in
Go ahead,
place
while you're looking at it. If somebody put a gun to your head and said, "Put that back into a truck,"
I'll be dead.
Yeah, me too.
And which is funny because he's not too bad, honestly. Like,
and I'm generally good at puzzle solving, but
I don't see a truck.
No,
I can't see the end result here. It's amazing.
No, it's very strange. Now the only place where the tolerances get in the way is...
Time out. Wait a second. He just swiveled at his chest level. Was that the swivel
Yeah, to
where
turn,
the truck turned.
That's actually where I was struggling before. His thighs were crooked because they're hidden. It's actually in here.
You got to be kidding me!
Wow.
It's in one of his legs.
Because, his there's a stopper in here that keeps it from swiveling once he transforms into robot mode, and it was in the wrong spot.
That's the engineering that it blows my mind that they didn't do something more central, and they actually shoved it in one of his thighs. That's the swivel.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
This is
so
part,
cool.
This is a byproduct of the transformation. They don't always all do this.
No, they don't.
Sometimes they don't all have a ball joint in their head, which is lazy, if you ask me. Now, the only place where tolerances get in the way, as I was saying, now that he is 4 times larger, is his weapon. Now, the main feature of this line was called Mech Tech, and what it was weapons that were either integrated into the vehicle mode that would be removed like this, or it was a built-in thing, but the main point is that they had an action feature, and this one is when you press on his access ladder here, it snaps out into a gun.
Wow.
That roughly, if you're super creative, resembles the shotgun that he had in the movie.
Yeah.
Now on the Voyager original Voyager class toy that he was.
Look at that.
That's
Do that again.
Wait a minute.
Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
How did you make that go right back in?
Yeah, you just release the receiver.
Oh, I see. I gotcha.
Now and it pegs to he cannot hold this gun. It pegs to his arm like it would like it did originally on Megatron, which is kind of cool, which I wish he did in the movie. It's not that hard. You can just make it happen.
But you can aim that if you want to.
right.
Aim the action figure.
He's very,
it looks
maybe not as sturdy that I've been playing with him forever, but at the time it was very tight.
Sure.
Get a little Loctite in there.
Now this one, I also think it's a byproduct of this being one of the only parts with a lot of metal pieces in it.
So it's heavy.
So it's a lot heavier than it was on the other toy. And the tolerances might not be there. The other problem is when the original toy, you could lock it in this position by twisting the ladder, and you can actually see the notch underneath the ladder where you would twist it and set it into place, and it would hold in the gun shape. But now the tolerances are so intense on this large one, and I don't know if they may have even just removed the feature, but it no longer does that. So that's the one downside to this. Now, something really cool that I want to show you guys that they did. This one is large, much larger, a lot of empty space. They took it upon themselves, and I'm going to remove his cowl for this. They've added electronics to him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Everything's better when it lights up and makes noise.
Was light piped, which is to say light, something they do on most Transformers these days. Light enters through the top of the cranium. This part is attached to his eyeballs, and it just shines through, and it looks cool.
Yep.
They've actually run electrical through him. If you look in his back, you can actually see the lights going, and actually just set him off there.
Yeah, I was hearing it fire.
Yeah, so you saw him light up, but what's hilarious about that is his sound chip. His sound chip comes from because he didn't come with a sound chip. There's no Megatron sound chip to go in him. It's from a Power Ranger.
Really?
So I don't know if you can crank this. Let me do it this way.
You're in camera.
He has
go ahead.
He has several different sounds that he makes, and one of them is hilarious. So there's robot noises.
That sounds like shooting.
Some of them are very prolonged.
That's a telephone.
Yeah, that's clearly some old brick telephone. Goes on for way too long. And then...
Oh my God!
Do that again?
I have to cycle
through.
Yeah,
Okay.
he encourages the Rangers to go.
Let's go, Rangers.
Go, Rangers.
Which is confusing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's about the only clue you're going to get that this is perhaps not an official
That's cool.
item here. Because everything else on him is just terrific. I mean, he might not be able to hold his weapon up all the way, but everything on him is rock solid. He's terrific stature, especially if you're getting leader class bumblebees and ironhides until you want to die. And Megatron is supposed to be double their size. Well, now he is. You can't beat the price, it being a knockoff toy. Something like this from Hasbro these days, well, they wouldn't produce it, but it would be it would probably be to the tune of $120 to $130, which is where they like to price their toys, and the quality would probably be a lot lower. You'd see a lot more hollow, empty areas on it. So it's a terrific value. If you can still
remind us again the value, how much?
I mean, I think at the time, because I picked him up quick, I paid $44 for him, but I also paid about $15 in shipping.
Right.
Now I believe
that's not horrible.
If you find him, no, certainly not for something like this. I am very pleased with my purchase.
No, I mean even with the shipping, I mean that's not terrible at all.
And again, he removed it from the packaging. For
if
me,
only you could just transform him into the shape of a UPS box and put a sticker on him.
Oh yeah.
Not sold on Amazon.
Now we're gonna try harder and harder at the store here to get stuff like this and the cool items. In the meantime, if I can plug somebody who is awesome,
please do.
It's a one-man operation. Sirtoys.com, SIR-toys.com, all one word. The fella who runs it is just like one guy. He goes out to the swap meets and the bazaars, and he in flea markets out in overseas, and he will pick these up for you by hand upon request. He has a great store, lots of awesome oversized Transformers like this. Your mileage will vary on the quality, but the cost is always very, very good.
See, the Sci-Fi Channel needs to find this guy and do a reality show and just follow him around with the requests that he gets.
I mean, like, you're finding guys, like, one of the coolest things out right now is they are working their way through the Dinobots from the 4th movie, the movie Dinobots, and they're doing oversized versions of them with die-cast parts, which is super cool, and I believe they are all cheaper than you would get a standard leader class figure from Hasbro these days, which they are now shortening too because of the imaginary petroleum crisis that they are talking about.
Well, cool. You've shown us a lot tonight.
Petroleum
this is the coolest toy.
And again,
oil prices are lower than they've been in 20 years.
Yeah, and it's kind of psycho. This is this is unofficial, kind of an oddity, not an official toy. One that your big bad toy stores and your toy arcs are not going to carry. You got to kind of like do a little digging for it.
But that's why we're doing toy reviews here at Gods and Monsters, because we want you to bring attention to those things.
We don't want to see toys that you can go to Target to buy.
Right, absolutely.
Check it out. I'm sure you can still find this guy out there. I'm sure he's still in the wild. And if you do find him, let me know, because I know a couple of my compatriots around here definitely want to get their hands on one if they can.
So I think it's amazing that more of those aren't available in places, because I mean obviously the engineering that must have gone into creating this toy is probably incredible. Somebody spent a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of money,
a lot of love,
bringing this toy to reality. And they're not just going to make 8 of them or 80 or even 800. They're probably going to do a 10,000 run.
What happens nowadays is the factory gets the mold to make Optimus Prime or Bumblebee or Megatron. They make the prescribed number that Hasbro requests, and then either the factory itself just decides, like, because they have a very and I'm not being facetious or making a joke here, I'm being literal. They have a very different idea of what intellectual property is all about. They'll just decide, well, they don't want any more, and we have these steel molds, so let's go nuts. Other times with these third-party toys, it will be some workers at the factory who steal molds or steal time on the floor to produce more. Famously, some of the Masterpiece toys come with accessories and that are sometimes people only want the accessory. And they don't want to pay $250 for the Masterpiece toy. Somebody will hop into the factory and they'll just start cranking that accessory out. This one, this seems to be happening a lot. These oversized characters, and sometimes they dumb them down. Sometimes, like this, they work. Some dude is spending time in his off hours to work his ass off to figure out how to make this 4 times larger for a market that exists maybe only in his city. And I think that's pretty spectacular, and you can't discount this stuff just because it's happening under the radar without consent. Hasbro knows this is happening. They are aware that this is going on, and either they do not care because it crosses into their profit margin, or well, most assuredly that's it. They're selling millions of units. They don't care, and they don't want you to make them care. So stop going to BotCon and asking the Hasbro reps to give an official statement on bootlegs, because you are forcing them to crack down on an industry that literally is doing no harm to anyone.
They probably don't want to become a Metallica with a Napster, and then everybody hates Metallica because
the bullies.
Beyond that, I don't. I'll tell you what. I no longer own the Voyager class Megatron. The official version. I would have brought it in to show you to compare it to.
Would you say that's better? I mean, you said it already. You said that's better.
This is the toy I want. Now, Hasbro didn't make the toy that I wanted. Somebody else did. I went where the product went. You know, I go where the product goes.
You're the picture of capitalism.
Yeah, that's right. That's where my loyalties lie. Now, over here, we've been indoctrinated to believe that, in a lot of really unnecessary and superfluous copyright and intellectual property law. Now, I mean, I don't want somebody stealing something I do, but if somebody does so, my natural inclination would be to do it again better, because they will always be following in my footsteps.
Sure,
That's right.
And I will always, you will never beat the innovator until the innovator decides to stop innovating. So I would just let it go and enjoy it. Go out there, find this thing. It's awesome. Grab it if you can.
And if this pushes, is it Mattel or Hasbro now that makes
Hasbro does.
So if this pushes Hasbro to up their game just a little bit and make toys better,
then mission accomplished.
I think everybody wins there.
Yeah. Certainly, and it has in the past. One of the most famous third-party toys that came out was based on the Transformer Springer, from who first appeared in the 1984 movie. And it was superb. It was fantastic.
I own that movie.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Oh yeah,
it is absolutely terrible.
No rose-colored glasses here. Our source material is garbage.
It is the worst.
A few years later down the line, Hasbro had an opportunity to do their own Springer, and oh my God, did they knock it out of the park! The Hasbro version is superior in every single way.
That's the way it should work.
It's probably one of the greatest Transformer toys that will ever be made, and it was available. And while the third-party one was $80-$90, now it's around $100-$120 if you can get your hands on it. That one is $20, and when it was done, when Walmart and Target were done to it, it went to Ross and it was $10, and you cannot beat it. But then, Hasbro just got cocky, and the design team that made that Springer was summarily fired and told to clean out their desks. And the toys have regressed into, with Transformers Robots in Disguise, which is ongoing right now, the toys have regressed into half-functional bricks.
They are robots in disguise. They actually are.
Yeah, they're barely you could barely tell that there's a robot.
They're disguised at Ross in the discount bin.
Yeah, exactly.
They're heads that pop out of cars.
We've come a long way from Diaclone and Micronauts, where it's a van, and then you stand the van up on its bumper, and now it's a robot. And and we've reached our apex, our zenith, and now we're headed right back towards it's a car, it's a robot.
That's why I think GoBots failed, and Transformers lived on. Transformers always seem to transform into more believable robots.
Sure. Another reason was I think Tonka owned them, and Tonka went under.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. And,
I didn't know that.
Hasbro actually bought Tonka and all its properties, and you're seeing the GoBots filter into Transformers canon now.
No.
You're seeing the characters.
No.
You look when they reach out into the galaxy, and you see it in the old cartoon. There were other aliens, and what I thought was always interesting is they were all as big as Transformers. So our scale, we are the tiny creatures of the universe. But you would also see other robotic life forms, and one of those now, and you see in the comics, is you'll start seeing Psykill.
No kidding.
And Scooter.
That's clever.
And Fracture.
That's very clever.
You'll start seeing them.
And are they brought up to the standards or the detail that Transformers are?
The first time you see Psykill is when he is being brutally dismembered by Megatron in a underground fighting ring.
That's poignant. That says something.
Yeah, they do that a lot.
Like, screw you, GoBots.
They love doing that. They love going back to Transformers Armada, which had the shittiest Transformer toys in the history of the franchise, and taking the characters from that and using them as fodder in the background of images getting blown up, and
Was that when they went from the metal to the plastic ones, and they were just terrible?
This was right. This was right after Beast Wars, which I personally checked out on. I had no interest in a toy that was it's a gorilla, and it turns into a stick figure robot with an entire gorilla on its back. I had no interest in that.
Lazy.
The Transformers Armada toys was their first real venture back into vehicles, and that was the team that stayed with them for decades. And you watch because it was the same group of guys, and they were making and they were improving, and the toys were improving, and they went from toys that were just, again, garbage, ugly, hideous, crappy garbage, to that Springer toy was one of the final toys that they got to work on, and it is a work of art. And then they were fired and removed from the job because the mandate was that kids are and every couple of years, all toy manufacturers go through this phase where they think kids are retarded and they need to dumb things down.
Right.
And they also think that adults are retarded because the price goes up.
Right.
And that's where we're at right now.
Well, once again, Spider brings us a couple of toys that we didn't know about. He's here to
in a lengthy, pedantic rant.
There's nothing wrong with that because you brought us a really cool toy. Next week, we'll have Mouse back with another toy. He said he doesn't know what it is yet, but what are you going to bring the week after that? Remind us.
Oh, geez, I think we're going to start. We've shown you a lot of high-end stuff. I think I'm going to show you some low-end things. Oh, no. I'm lying to you. I want to talk about Shapeways.
Shapeways.
The hot, sexy new thing is 3D printing. And I've been working.
Okay, good.
I've been working with 3D printers since 2006, and I want to show you why I hate them.
Oh, all right.
Good. A
So,
rant.
yeah.
Next time we see Spider, we're going to talk about 3D printing and why we hate it. So stay tuned for next week's episode of Toy
I
Reviews.
don't hate it. Okay.
Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.